Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the classic version of Captain Marvel and her iteration in Contest of Champions. Now, there are 3 playable versions of Carol Danvers in this game. There's the classic version of Captain Marvel, there's her Miss Marvel iteration, and then there is the Captain Marvel movie variant that came out around the time as the, Captain Marvel, Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. And I think that Captain Marvel Classic has some decent things going for her, but there's certainly room where she could be improved upon. And unlike a lot of the other characters that we've looked at up until this point, I actually feel like we could see a revamp or an overhaul of Captain Marvel sooner than we would some of the other characters that we've looked at in this series. Now, what are my thoughts on what could be done? I've got a couple that I'd like to throw out there and speculate on. But as we get into that analysis, make sure you check to see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, make sure you fix that as I bring daily variety content to you. And if you feel like today's video is helpful or insightful, feel free to leave a like. So let's at least start by looking at where Captain Marvel is in her current state. She has an 11% chance to gain a Fury buff that lasts 6.5 seconds on any attack. Her special 1 attack has the ability to ignore all armor, and she is immune to poisons. Any of the poison type debuffs that can be applied by opponents or by environments is not applicable to Captain Marvel. So she has those things going for her at the very least. Her signature ability offers some additional damage output and minimal damage ramp up, and it's minute. It's very, very minuscule, but it is there. She is able to increase her attack rating up to a certain amount based off of how much power she has stored. And if any energy-based attack is come in contact, and if any energy-based attack contacts Captain Marvel's block, she will absorb additional energy and add that to her power meter. So not useless, but very outdated in terms of abilities and what she is able to accomplish. And we do need to mention her special abilities as well. They're both very easy to avoid. The first is a cosmic beam, which looks different than the attacks from Vision and a couple of others, at least on their SP1, but functionally it's about the same. It comes down at the exact same angle, has kind of the same hit mark indicators for it, and it's not super impressive apart from having that benefit of being able to ignore all armor rating. And her second ability is a 1-2 kick right after one after the other, and actually is a little bit better on the overall damage output, I feel. But again, very easy to avoid, as you can just dash back as soon as you see her activating that special 2. You should even be able to get out of range with that without the dexterity mastery, and the same kind of goes for the SP1 if you're vigilant enough about it, though any player that knows what they're doing in this game or wants to have any degree of success is going to invest into dexterity as soon as humanly possible. Her SP3, it's flashy and it's short, which I'm appreciative of, but I would not be upset at all to see an overhaul to the way that her special attacks work if we were to see a revamp for this character. And most of the time we at least see one of the special attacks getting reanimated, if not all of them, when it comes time for that to happen. So what changes would I like to see to this character? Well, I actually think that it would be kind of cool to add some sort of passive fury based off of stored power that can be activated upon a heavy attack. And this would be on a fight-by-fight basis. I don't think that this would work well in a passive ability type carrying over to one fight to the next. But let's say she has a percentage of her power meter filled, let's say 45% or so. Upon landing a heavy attack, she can convert that into a passive fury, or you can have kind of some micro furies that are passive that will last for the remainder of the fight, so it can't be nullified or taken away from her. But you have these furies that will stack up based off of how much power she has. And I think it wouldn't be too far off to say, let's say that she can gain 150 of these furies that raise her attack by maybe 5 to 15 points, or you can make it vary based off of her signature ability strength. 5 to 15 attack points per fury with a maximum cap of 150. So that would encourage you to get a parry a couple of times in a fight and throw out a heavy attack. And conceivably, if you did that back to back with a full power meter, you would be able to max out that gauge at those 150 furies that each of them individually increase her overall attack rating by a very small amount comparatively. But when you have 150 of those stored up on the character, it would do quite well. Now, another thing that would be kind of interesting to do with that is have it where you can then purge those passive furies from the character by landing a special 3. And that would again deal a certain amount of energy damage to the character, to the opponent, when the attack expires. So it wouldn't factor into the overall special 3 and the damage that's calculated based off of whatever combo goes into that, but it would be an additional burst of damage that you would see after that has concluded. And I think that that would work really well for this character, especially based off of her especially where all of her attacks are revolving around being able to control and induce that cosmic energy. That's one idea that I had for how this character could be overhauled, and it would be unique to what we've seen between the newer versions of Captain Marvel and her shadow clone and her identical clone in terms of functionality, that is Miss Marvel. And I wouldn't mind if you kept one of the characters with that, but I honestly think that both of them could use an overhaul. And it's certainly beneficial where all versions of the Captain Marvel character have that immunity to poison. Again, that fits in with her Kree physiology that's in there, so you really wouldn't want to mess around with that too much. But she really does need something to increase her viability when it comes to the damage that she can output. And there's just a lot more that could be done in that, right? If we're looking to make her relevant, or at least move her up in terms of how frequently she's used and be a little bit more rewarding to early game players, especially as with all of these Marvel movies and TV shows that are going to be coming out in the next couple of years. This game is likely to continue to gain a following and an increase in its player base. And there's nothing worse than getting a hold of a character that you recognize and you esteem highly, and then learning that, well, they don't really have a place in the meta of the game. And it's hard to take that on. Now, I really don't know if there's any other abilities that I would tack on to Captain Marvel, but there certainly is a lot of room for improvement. So if you have any ideas, thoughts, suggestions, I am open to hearing how that... I am open to hearing what your thoughts are, so please feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below this video, as I would love to know what other people are thinking in terms of how this character could be overhauled, revamped, and improved. And it would honestly be a lot of fun to see any sort of adjustment made to this character, but I guess time will tell as to whether or not she does get revamped and does get overhauled. Especially where this is the quintessential classic version of, and very faithful to the character's origins, although there have been a lot of changes to how she's been perceived, at least in recent years. But But thanks for letting me take a little bit of your time today, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this character. So with that being said, I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day.